The most powerful designers in fashion once turned Gisele Bündchen away. Months later, she walked into their world and made them regret ever saying no. With one unforgettable runway, she forced the industry to admit they had been wrong about everything. Her story begins in Horizontina, Brazil, where fields ran to the horizon and her days were filled with volleyball games that left her flushed and laughing. Beauty was never the goal. Her height and frame earned teasing nicknames, and the idea of modeling felt distant, like something belonging to another world. Yet life has a way of finding its own path. When Gisele was 14, a trip to a Sao Paulo shopping mall put her in the path of a scout who saw what others missed. Soon after, she began booking her first local print and catalog jobs in Brazil.
Yeah, so then just living alone since I'm 14 and being out in the world is like I said, I didn't go to high school, but I feel like I have a diploma on the school of life in so many ways because I think when you go out in the world and you figure it out, you learn pretty quickly, when your parents are not there to protect you.
She was sent to Tokyo for several months, working on commercials and catalog shoots, often alone in a city where she didn't speak the language.
And I didn't speak a word of English or Japanese, so it was pretty interesting living in Japan without speaking English or Japanese. I just said yes to everything. Yes.
The experience toughened her, but also made her crave a bigger stage. In 1997, she moved to New York, still a teenager, her voice quiet in a new language, her face unfamiliar to agents who held tight to the idea that thinness and pale features sold dreams. She was barely 17, navigating the city alone, carrying a portfolio in hands that still felt too young for the weight of her ambition. The casting rooms were cold, the faces behind the tables even colder. Each no felt heavier than the last, until it seemed the rejections might outnumber her days in the city. She wondered if she would ever belong. Everything changed on a night when Alexander McQueen asked her to walk through water. It all happened in London, 1998. Alexander McQueen's rain show soaked the runway in water.
And he basically put me naked on the show. But I couldn't even speak English properly, so I started crying. I'm like, I'm melting. I have this fake feather lashes, and I'm crying, so they're melting and they're falling down. And I have to go on the runway, but the thing is my makeup is...
Models wavered, their steps cautious on the slick floor. When Gisele emerged, the crowd stilled. Bare-skinned, water clinging to her body, she moved through the downpour as if it were hers to command. Each stride splashed heavy droplets into the air. The sound echoed against the walls. McQueen called her the body, and the next day, every designer who had turned her away called her back. From that night on, she was no longer asking for a place in fashion. She was deciding where fashion would go. But Gisele was not content to be the industry's new favorite. She was already dreaming of something no model had tried before. What did she see that the rest of fashion could not? The industry once told her to wait her turn, to fit in quietly. But soon it was the designers who waited for her. Gisele no longer chased approval. Now the world's largest brands followed her lead, hoping that her presence could transform their shows and their fortunes. But the attention also brought confrontation. In 2002, during a Victoria's Secret show, activists stormed the runway holding signs that read, "Gisele, fur scum." The image flashed across the world, forcing her to confront the reality of the industry's relationship with animal fur. From that moment, she vowed never to wear it again and began aligning herself with causes that matched her values, from wildlife protection to reforestation projects in Brazil. She became known not for the clothes she wore, but for the way she moved, turning a simple walk into something unforgettable. The magazines called it a return of beauty, but what they really meant was a return of life and warmth to runways that had long felt cold. Gisele brought energy back to the world of fashion, and with every stride she reminded people of what confidence and health could look like. Still, her rise did not erase the pressures waiting behind every curtain. Contracts grew larger, expectations heavier. She carried the weight of becoming the face of an entire era. The industry whispered that change had come too quickly, that tradition might disappear. Some designers grew restless. They watched as Gisele shaped her own destiny, investing in her future, making choices that reached far beyond the glare of the camera. What nobody knew was that Gisele learned to survive by splitting herself in two. There was her, the flawless figure the industry bought, and then there was Gisele. The two moved through the same world, but only Gigi was allowed to feel. The other worked without pause. What began as a way to endure would leave marks she couldn't yet see, scars that would surface years later.
It was easier to deal with criticism that way as well. You know, we need to change the hair, it's not working, we need to change the makeup or the clothes, everything is terrible. And then if you're young and you're thinking, I'm terrible, like I'm doing something wrong.
She launched a skincare line inspired by her childhood and chose partnerships that let her shape the details herself. She wanted every new step to matter, not just to her, but to the world she came from. As her name spread, she began to use it for something lasting. She supported clean water projects back home and planted trees where forests had vanished. Her journey became a message. Success was not just about standing at the center of attention, but about lifting others and building something real. For many, these triumphs would be enough. But even as the industry celebrated her, Gisele faced another battle, one that would test her spirit in ways no runway ever could. From the outside, her world looked unbreakable. Success followed her from city to city, from magazine covers to the heights of global fame. Yet behind the polished image, there were days when Gisele felt adrift, far from the security she once knew as a child. Every step forward in her career was carving deeper cracks in her mind, because what she thought was strength was quietly breaking her from the inside. At the peak of her career, she was everywhere, invited to walk for legendary brands and named the highest paid model in the world. Runways from Paris to Milan carried her stride. She opened for Dior, closed for Versace, fronted campaigns for Chanel, Balenciaga, and Louis Vuitton, all within the same season. Editors spoke of her as a living brand, a name that could sell a vision before a single garment was shown. She graced every major campaign, accepted every award, but fame can bring a different kind of loneliness. The pressure to perform, to please, to stay at the top weighed heavy. Each day brought new demands, and the silence of hotel rooms began to press in. Gisele realized that the applause she heard on stage could never quiet the doubts she carried inside.
Separated her, Gisele, this idea. The persona. Then Gisele, the goofball, me, tomboy. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Because I think the fashion wanted to, created this ideal of glamorous and sexy and all that stuff.
And you understood that, and you were willing to serve that thing.
Yes, I was.
The world did not see her struggle. Only Gisele knew the cost of chasing perfection. Years of relentless travel and unending expectations began to erode her sense of stability, and the glamour that once energized her started to feel like a cage. Panic attacks gripped her without warning, the pressure in her chest building until every breath became a struggle, and the quiet of hotel rooms turned into a constant reminder of how far she was from home.
Growing up as a middle child of 6 sisters, you learn quickly how to share, how to honor each other's differences, and how to work as a team. And this will help you through your journey. You will achieve great success, and with it, more pressure, jealousy, and judgment will come.
Every space felt smaller, every breath harder to take, until one thought remained, maybe if I just jump.
Mostly to do with how they feel about themselves and their own insecurities. Drop the guilt. Relax. It is not your responsibility to please everyone and fix everything. It's about giving and receiving. Since you were little, you knew there was a higher power. With time, you will learn how to listen to the voice within.
Instead of hiding, Gisele made a promise to herself. She left behind what hurt her and embraced what healed her. She found her way back to balance with yoga, meditation, and honesty. In her memoir, she opened her life to others, showing that even the most admired faces can break and then rebuild. Through her story, she gave others permission to find hope in their own struggles. Even as she found strength again, the outside world remained fascinated by her every move. When her private life became public, Gisele faced new storms. But this time, she was ready to walk through them with the same grace she brought to every runway. Gisele found new meaning in family, a place where the world's noise faded and the simple joys of ordinary days mattered more than any headline or award. Her marriage to Tom Brady added a different kind of structure. Known for his almost military discipline, strict diet, rigid training schedules, early nights, Brady's lifestyle demanded precision. Gisele adapted, running her home with the same focus, not as a sacrifice of her own career, but as a deliberate choice to anchor their family life.
Do you miss the spotlight, though, a little?
No.
Not at all?
No, not at all. I was there to take my kids to school every day and make them breakfast every morning and just be with them and just, I mean, what a gift. They grow up so fast.
She stepped into motherhood with the same focus she brought to her career, learning that love could be as demanding and rewarding as any spotlight. Life at home, filled with laughter and quiet rituals, became a refuge from the endless chase of success. She cherished bedtime stories, morning sunlight, the chance to guide her children toward their own dreams. In these moments, Gisele saw how strength could mean gentleness, how legacy could be measured not just in records or earnings, but in kindness and care.
You knew there was a higher power. With time, you will learn how to listen to the voice within. You will also experience a deep connection to nature, and protecting her will become a huge part of your life.
Still, the world rarely lets go of its interest in those it calls icons. As Gisele built a family, rumors circled her private life, questioning her happiness and the choices she made. She faced the collapse of her marriage in the glare of constant attention. Every move, every silence became a headline, and the comfort of home sometimes felt fragile. There were days when loss pressed in, when old doubts threatened to return. Now, as the years pass and new faces rise in fashion, Gisele remains, her presence as steady as ever. What keeps her at the center when so many others fade into memory?
So remember, no matter what comes your way, keep living your life with love. Loving yourself, loving others, and loving the world you live in.